Hello, welcome back to Just Between Us. I'm Bot.
And I'm Dom.
And today we are talking about how to have boundaries without being a bitch.
Oh, this is a topic I am so excited about. You know how I feel about a boundary. I love me nothing more than a good boundary.
I love a boundary as well. I think like my family has a show, and the biggest, I would say, criticism and praise that I've received from people watching my family show is like the boundaries that I have. Some people are like, whoa, loosen up on those boundaries. And some people are like, wow, like good for you that you have them. And boundaries rule my life, and I'm obsessed with them.
In what sense have people said like, whoa, that's too strong of a boundary?
There was a scene or a topic or whatever you want to call it about my relationship with my mom when I was going through my divorce and my mom was going through her divorce. And I think that something that I needed to learn for myself was if I'm not doing okay, I can't help someone else.
Exactly.
No matter how much I want to or how much I care about them or how much I love them. And when my mom was going through her divorce, I was still like 3 months into mine.
Yeah.
And she was upset that I wasn't being more supportive. And I had to have a sit down conversation with her and be like, I don't have anything to give. Like whatever I'm
running
giving,
on empty.
Yeah, like whatever I have right now is what I'm able to offer you. If I gave you more, I wouldn't be okay. And obviously, like, she understood where I was coming from. But leading up to it, it was like, seeing that I'm not showing up as much, that I'm not as supportive. And I was getting a lot of backlash, like, actually internally with my family, not just seen on the show, that I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't have anything more to give you guys. Like, whatever I'm doing and however I'm supporting is what I'm available for.
Yeah.
And I will never regret not doing more because I was trying to like protect my mental health. And I think that's something that people don't understand, that having a boundary doesn't make you a bitch.
No, not at all. I think that even that concept, like, because you would only say a girl who holds a boundary is a bitch. And I have a whole other thought on this. Like Elizabeth Gilbert, who's an amazing writer, has this whole talk about the divine feminine and how important it is for women specifically to set boundaries and say, I am a sacred space. But it's one thing that I wanted to say on what you were saying. Good thing that a boundary only needs to make sense to you, and it has to be, around what is important to you, because that's how boundaries are set. The second thing I'll say is that I have found that the people who don't understand or don't respect your boundaries after you've set them typically are attached to you in a certain way that isn't healthy for the dynamic, meaning that they're like needing desperately something from you that isn't healthy for the dynamic, or they're manipulating, not maybe consciously, but they're saying like, our friendship is, you have to do this in order to receive my love. And it's not a great dynamic to be in. And that the third thing is that with my healing journey, I had a similar situation where I had to set boundaries around myself because I hadn't realized up until I was 25 that I was completely over functioning for everybody in my life. Like I was carrying everybody's emotional weight, everybody's emotional burdens. And I was the one that was responsible for everyone, but I never had anyone that I could like go to for that stuff.
Yeah.
And so healing for me, the first massive step for it was setting boundaries to figure out what is my bullshit and what is other people's bullshit. I say that lovingly, so that I can start understanding what is my side of the street to clean up.
Right. And it's so important to understand that obviously setting up too many boundaries isn't, that's not healthy either. There is a balance between the two. But when you set up a boundary because you're like, in order for me to show up as my best version of myself for you, I can only do this. And you have to have that internal talk with yourself when it's like, okay, what am I capable of? And like, what's going to hurt me? And I feel like this shows up with friendships, within dating, within your family. And the more you understand who you are and how you work, helps you set up those proper boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, boundaries can definitely be weaponized. I just had a situation where a coach that I signed up with like weaponized a boundary against me as a way to, try to get out of something. And we've seen Jonah Hill before. I don't know if you remember, Jonah Hill was using his boundaries in a way. I can't remember all the details of it, but he was like, don't cross this boundary. You have to do this not to cross the boundary. And so there is a potential of like weaponizing boundaries in a certain way. I find that like boundaries help people understand how you see yourself. And so what that means is like, here's my standard of like who I am as a person. And it doesn't need to be a mean thing, right? If I say, for example, Nikki and I always talk about how we're like what's the word? It's like
low maintenance.
Low maintenance friends. That's exactly
Yes.
what we are. We say we're low maintenance friends. I'm a low maintenance friend because I have a lot of clients I need to take care of on an emotional basis. And so if I have someone who I meet who is constantly needing like emotional attention or, you know, constantly calling me to like talk about something that I don't have, unfortunately, as much time for, it's not that I don't like that person. I probably like that person a lot, but it's like I don't have the space to do that. So I am like showing up as the person that I need to be in my life, and then opening myself up to the potential for that person to understand me at a better level too of what's important to me.
Yeah. I think I've had to set boundaries within my friendships at times when specifically I'm thinking about when I was going through my divorce, and I realized that there were certain people who relied on me emotionally, that because I had my ex-husband, my partner to give me support, I was able to support them. And then when my support system was taken from me, I was like, I can't be there for you the way I used to be there for you because I don't have my rock anymore.
Yeah.
And I can't be your rock right now.
Yeah.
And maybe that will shift and maybe that will change. But I think sometimes having those like heartfelt conversations like the one where I had with my mom, where sometimes I think you need to explain a boundary if it shifts.
Yes.
And be like, listen, like I know I showed up for you in that way before. That no longer aligns with who I am right now. I can't be that person for you. This is how I can show up for you.
Yeah.
And then if they don't respect that and they don't understand where you're coming from, then that's like a good aha moment for you to be like, okay, this person obviously is on a different playing field than I am, and I need to now reevaluate how I want to interact with them going forward.
100%. I think that like compassionately setting boundaries and communicating them and allowing the other person to like see your point of view actually opens up the opportunity for that person to care. And I've seen, at least in my experience, like I think because I was so early on in my healing journey, and that was like kind of the first big lesson that I learned of like setting boundaries with family, with certain friends, because I was, like you said, on empty, down bad. At least in my own experience, have seen the beauty that happens from boundaries, that when you like set it, like that person has the opportunity to heal and grow on their own and be able to learn these lessons on their own, or even go to other people that might support them in a different way. And so I always see boundaries as like loving, especially if they're being done with loving intention, where like I really have to take care of myself in order for, it's amazing. It like benefits the relationship in them such a beautiful way. And it's so wild that so often as women, we think that setting a boundary, whether it is in friendships, like in romantic relationships or in, you know, even business, that it'll create some kind of dramatic thing that like we won't recover from. But in reality, it just helps us create the life that we want to create for ourselves.
Yeah, I think something that I don't think I've ever spoken about this before. This is going to be fun.
Oh, what is it?
When I grew up in Muncie, New York. I was like living a more religious life at the time, and I like my mom had like left the community, so my dad was like taking care of the house, and my dad and mom actually like paid me to nanny and take care of my younger brother and do homework with him and make dinner. And I fell into this like mold or role of like manning his household and like taking care of my brother and doing all these things and really taking care of my dad as well. And when I wanted to move to the city with my husband at the time, I was like, how can I go and live the life I want to live and leave them behind and not be there to care for them? And I was in therapy at the time, and I felt so guilty. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to let them down. I don't want them to be sad. Who's going to take care of them?
Yeah.
And my therapist was like, you're like enabling now.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like enabling my dad to rely on me. He didn't have to date. He didn't have to like learn how to provide for himself, you know, all those things, and like take care of my little brother without me. Like these were all things that were for him. And when I decided to like take that step back and move to the city, which was like a great decision for me, it was so hard. But my dad ended up within, I don't know, 6 months to a year, finding the woman he's now married to. They've been married for 3 years. And I really think if I hadn't made that change to put that boundary up and be like, I can't take care of you anymore, then he wouldn't have been forced to move on.
Yeah.
It was so hard for me because I was like, I feel so terrible.
Yeah.
And sometimes making boundaries are really hard. But generally, they're for a positive and a greater good.
Yeah. And like, this is the thing that I find, not just with my own journey, but other clients' journeys too, is like the hardest thing. It's when somebody, also, every behavior that we have gets wired into our brain, and especially in like familial dynamics, that person is so used to leaning on you in that way. And I think that as you start to reach adulthood and your life starts to shift to either focus on your own family or your own life, like you start to realize that. You start to realize, oh, my dad relies on me for this, or my mom relies on me for this. And sometimes it's unfair. Sometimes it's not your, unfortunately, responsibility to handle about, for example, how your mom feels about herself. I know that my mom sometimes, she like, if I'm doing well, she's doing well. If I'm going through a hard time, she's going through a hard time. And sometimes it's like, you know, I have to set that boundary with her because I should be able to go through a hard time without it impacting her emotions. Mm-hmm. But like when you set it for somebody else, you then have the opportunity to give that person the opportunity to like create something for themselves and like be able to change their life on their own. And it's like really beautiful in that way.
Yeah. And that's why I think there are so many amazing things. And now like to shift a little bit into dating, because I feel like this is a topic that a lot of women struggle with, is creating boundaries within dating and getting involved in situationships and toxic dynamics. Yes. And I think that so many girls are like, I want to be the cool girl. I want to be the chill girl. I'm going to be like laid back. Like I'm low maintenance. And it's like, are you low maintenance or are you just being taken advantage of? Yeah. Are you just being fucked around with? And it's like, you have to understand that for yourself and set that boundary.
As a girl who literally, my brain was trained into being low maintenance. Like I was trained to be like the cool, chill girl. You're not chill internally. Like, you know when a boundary is being crossed. You know when you're not being treated the way that your heart and your gut feels that you should be treated. And I think that the biggest thing that stops us from communicating our boundaries or communicating kind of the standards that we want to be held to is that I know from my experience when I was working through this, I would wait too long. And so like I would wait, not at the first moment, not the second moment, not even at the third moment when I noticed that like I started to get like frustrated or whatever. I would like in my head, I'd be like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. I'm a chill girl. I'm a cool girl. And then in that last moment when they finally did something, then I would blow up. And that's not when the boundary is meant to be communicated. The boundary is meant to be communicated early on where you still have that like space within you to be kind and compassionate and see
to walk away.
Or to walk away without that additional like emotional stuff. And you know, that's like my favorite thing to do now is to like communicate where I'm at. And if anybody ever says that like you're communicating too much with that person, I mean, there is a balance, I will say that. But like, you know, if you notice that somebody's not meeting your boundary over and over again, that's also yours to uphold. Like a boundary is not treat me this way. A boundary is this is my standard, and like I will walk away if you don't meet the standard, and you have to you have to follow through on it. I know that's the hardest part of it.
It's so true. I've experienced this myself. Like when if you say something to a guy and you're like, I cannot be treated like this is not my standard, obviously in a nicer way. If they do it again, you need, and I'm not trying, like, no offense to the men listening, like men I think need to be trained into what your level of your boundary is, what level of respect, how you want to be treated. Yeah. And if they do it again and you don't talk to them about it, or you're like, whatever, I'm going to let it go, they're not going to take you seriously. Yeah. And why should they?
Well, there's this like quote that I love. I forget who wrote it. It's an Instagram quote, but it says like your boundaries will feel like lightning until they feel like truth. Like when you are upholding your boundaries, when they've become, at first when you first start setting boundaries, it might feel like, why is this person doing this? And the reason why that's happening is because anytime that person like, you know, somebody hits you or triggers you in the same way, it's not just that one moment. It's like all of the other moments that your brain recognizes as the same pattern that's triggering you. But after a while, once you start setting boundaries, it's no longer like, oh, like I have to train this guy to walk away. This is who I am. Like if you're not meeting me here, unfortunately, this relationship is not going to go where it needs to go because I'm this person and you're this person and we're just not clicking, Steven.
And that's okay.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. And I think that's like the biggest power that you have as a woman, or just any man, woman, whatever it is when you have a level of how you want to be treated, and if someone doesn't meet you there, you need to be okay with walking away. Yeah. And sometimes, like, let them surprise you, and maybe they'll be like, oh, shit, you know, I need to change this up because she's not gonna let this boundary go.
Yeah.
She's not going to. And I think also another thing that is very important is if let's say you end things.
Yeah.
And like I had this with my ex. We broke up a million times. Finally, the last time I'm like, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the Taylor Swift song, We're Never Getting Back Together.
Yeah.
Like when I heard that, like after going through this, I'm like, oh my God, you get me. And I was just like, he was not respecting my boundary.
Yeah.
And he was just like trying to talk to me still. And I'm like, I need you to respect the boundary I set to not speak to me right now. And I ended up blocking him. And sometimes people are like, that's so petty.
Oh, I don't care what people say at all.
Yeah.
I'll block somebody if I want to.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm not blocking him for him. Like, I'm blocking him because I know for myself, if I talk to him again, I'm going to get back in the cycle of getting back together.
Yeah.
Like, I knew myself. I'm like, I've gone in this toxic cycle with him so many times that, like, the boundary I need to set is zero communication, like, cold turkey. And he wasn't listening to it, and that's okay. Like sometimes you're gonna have people who aren't gonna respect your boundaries, so then you need to enforce them yourself.
That's exactly it. I've had that with like familial dynamics before, where I had to like set the boundary over and over again. I've had that with other relationships before too. Sometimes like just knowing that somebody relies on you as a habit, or that person's behavior is done from a habit, is really helpful for me, because when I've realized a new boundary, it's like, this is a new habit that I'm creating. The more that I respect this boundary, the easier it'll become for me. But also, I'm reteaching people how to treat me in that situation. So I'm not like mad at people when they cross a boundary, because for me, I'm like, this is my boundary now. And so over time, you're going to learn that you can't come over here, or the option is, you know, something like blocking, or, you know, not speaking to that person anymore.
Yeah, and stop worrying about being nice to people and how they're going to feel when it comes to what your mental health. Like, there was this guy I dated last year, and
I would say in general, worrying to be nice. I remember I had a moment last year where, as women, a lot of us care about being perceived as nice. And I had a moment like a few years ago where I was talking to my spiritual therapist, Joseph, and a girl had hooked me. She had triggered me by like making me believe that I wasn't being nice, even though I had been so nice. And then whatever, she didn't respect that I was so nice.
Okay.
And then I realized, I don't want to be seen as nice. That's a little tangent, but like there's so many more interesting words, and my best friend Ivana actually says this, there's so many more interesting words to be called than nice.
Yeah. I think like any person I've ever dated is like, you have boundaries. You're very clear on like what those are. And like sometimes I can meet them and sometimes I can't. And this guy that I was talking to for a couple of weeks, he ended things with me, and I was really sad, and he tried to continue being my friend. And I had to text him back, and I'm like, I can't be your friend right now. Like, I liked you. Please don't text me again.
Yeah.
And one of my friends was like, whoa, like, isn't that a little harsh? Like, maybe like he'll change. I'm like, no, like my boundary is like, I can't talk to you for me.
Yeah.
And it's not me being mean, and it doesn't mean that like I don't like you as a human. I've also unfollowed guys I've dated, and I've seen them later on, and they're like, why'd you unfollow me? Like, we didn't have nothing bad happen. And I was like, I didn't want to see your face watching my story. It had nothing to do with you. I mean, it had something to do with you, but it wasn't coming from a place of like, I don't like you or negativity. It was like, my boundary is like, if we're not talking anymore and I've had feelings for you and I'm sad about it, like I need to take you out of my little space that I have that I can control. Yeah. And sometimes that means deleting, unfollowing, not communicating, and be okay with that. And I swear all those guys have totally like respected me for that.
Yeah, I think also something that you keep on like kind of mentioning that I think is really important to note, which is like your boundary is your boundary, right? Like when you set a boundary, you're saying essentially to that person, hey, this is really important to me, and I'm going to, I'm going to set my standard here. Everybody's standards are going to be different. And I had a situation similarly last year where I, was dating somebody and something happened, and I was like, hey, like, this is a boundary of mine. I'm not going to proceed in the relationship unless I see like these actions done, and it's okay if they're not. We can still be friends. That was my point of view. I said it so early on, and I had some friends being like, well, like, well, do you think that you're being harsh? I'm like, no, I don't, because I know myself. I know that if I continue into this relationship ignoring this, I'm going to continue being triggered. Why would I want to be dating a guy where I'm constantly triggered, constantly like he's also not meeting me where I want to be? He's a great guy. Maybe it's just not for me. Maybe we just don't fit together. And so if you ever have somebody, like, good boundaries should be it depends on where you're at, but like you can have a boundary and then you can flex it also to kind of learn more about yourself.
Yeah.
But knowing and like heal more about yourself too. But knowing where you stand in any given moment will help you create relationships that honor you in a really, really beautiful way where you won't feel like a bitch for setting a boundary.
Yeah, and I think that it shouldn't be viewed as that. I think the guys actually really value.
Yeah.
And people in general, your family, your friends, they'll value you more when they know like what your levels are and that you uphold them.
Yeah.
Because they're like, wait, that's a high value person. They value their time, their attention, their energy really high. And therefore, like, I don't want to really fuck with that. I don't want to like push them over the edge because like I want to be like that too.
Yeah. I saw a TikTok a while back, and I don't remember the woman. I don't remember anything of it, but she was talking about how she first, I think it was something about her first starting setting boundaries, but she was talking about how she was a recovering people pleaser that would say yes to everybody. But I don't know if you've ever been in a situation or you've even felt it yourself where if you're saying yes to everybody, like that person doesn't know whether you're saying yes because you actually want to do it or because you feel bad. And think about being on the receiving end of that as a good person who has your intentions in mind, is not trying to abuse you, not trying to, take advantage of you. If you're always saying yes, even if you want to say no, that puts that person in an uncomfortable position because they don't want to make you do something that you don't want to do, right? And so I feel like when I start to set boundaries for myself, I start to see people as setting boundaries for themselves, and I became more comfortable with people saying no to me because I was like, pop off, queen. Like, pop off, king or queen. Like, set your boundary. I want you to know what your needs are. I want you to know how you respect yourself because then I can meet you there.
Yeah, and I think that we all value people more who value themselves.
100%.
Then you're like, wait, that's like someone I want to be around because like I can learn from them in different ways.
Yeah, or like I know what they're actually about. They're not just saying yes to my face and then saying something. Because I've also dated people with bad boundaries and they'll say yes to your face and then they'll be a little bit passive aggressive afterwards. And you're just like, damn, I don't want it to be passive aggressive. I want to respect you, but I don't know if you know what you need, right? And that can also be sometimes hard.
It is hard to decipher people's brains at times.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so done with like this year more than ever. If you're not like a client or if I'm not working with you, like I'm not psychoanalyzing anybody anymore.
That's good.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been described as a people pleaser. I think I've had to lessen my boundaries slightly at times. I think I went to the opposite extreme of feeling like I don't want anyone to take advantage of me, and therefore I'm going to make sure that like
I've been there.
So I do think it could go to an extreme where you're setting too many things.
Yeah.
But I think that's like part of growth. So if our listeners want to play around with this a little bit, I think they should think about something that maybe they are people pleasing, or a boundary, a conversation that they really wanted to have with like a friend or a family member, and like we're challenging you to make one little minute change that you know that you can uphold. Yeah,
like notice the moments that you're triggered in your day, and it doesn't have to be massive triggers, but like something like when somebody sends you an email and you're like, oh, how dare they, or like a friend, I don't know, doesn't text you back or something that triggers you. Notice what's being triggered within you, because I think good boundaries come from good self-understanding. And when you can get clear on that, then you'll be able to communicate it clearly. And then you can see it more of like, I'm sharing this because this is something that's important to me, not I'm trying to get rid of people. I'm trying to invite you into my world and for you to understand what's important to me.
I think this was a good time to wrap it up. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, we love boundaries. You so much.
We love you. We think this was like an amazing topic. So comment below if you want us to talk about any other topics around boundaries and self-love. We want to hear your feedback.
Yeah. Have a great day, everyone.
And you can follow me at ButchHaveAHeart on Instagram, TikTok, all the social spots for fashion and lifestyle. And Dom.
You can follow me on Dominique Perkowski across Instagram and TikTok on all mindset, meditation, and a little bit of spiritual stuff.
Love it. See you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.